talk to me a little bit about, because self-care is, I think it's getting more and more popular now, but it hadn't really been that popular, like, historically, right? So talk to me about, I guess, your process into getting into your own self-care and what your history was like, because I think it's a very kind of specialized niche area that you're working with these women. Obviously super important and like game changing, but like, how do you even get into this realm of self-care? What's your story?
Yeah, right. So, how long you got? But
well, girl, I gotta pick up my kids, but just tell me
right.
what you can, girl.
Listen, we'll get to it. So, I share often on my platforms with my clients as well, and in any space that I have, to acknowledge my story and my truth is that I'm a sexual abuse survivor. And so that experience informs so much of who I am, what I do, and how I do it. And I learned at some point through my adulthood and development in the relationship space that I was carrying my traumas with me. I was
Yeah.
making trauma informed decisions, and I was attracting men that we were becoming trauma connected and eventually trauma bonded. Right.
Can you explain that? Because I feel like some listeners might not understand what that, they may have experienced it, but they don't know what it really is.
Sure, right? So each of us has experienced some level of trauma in our lives. It could be something as small as like being teased on the playground to something as great and profound as like being sexually abused or being physically abused or abandoned in that way. And so when you are operating from an unconscious identity where you are just living in your conditioning and not making intentional choices because you are unaware of the baggage and the trauma, you will attract energetically, spiritually, emotionally people who either have similar traumas or whose traumas are complementary to yours, meaning that they can either help you to heal and to become aware, or they can deepen that hurt.
Yeah.
And most folks are unaware. So when both people are unconsciously operating from those trauma spaces, they hurt each other more, they inflict more trauma, and then it becomes this sort of vicious cycle, right? As opposed to you taking the time to self-reflect and say, here are some of the choices that I've made in my life, or here are some of the results that I've had that I don't want to repeat. And let me kind of think about why I make these choices and where that comes from.
Yeah.
But I wasn't at that place yet at that time.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I'm there with you,
Right?
girl.
So, it was a mess. And I come from a background of abuse. However, I also had a really supportive family of women who loved me and nurtured me and nourished me. And so even when I was going through this period of sexual abuse, and it's important for me to be clear and say that I was sexually abused by my biological father. And so I did not tell my mom, did not tell anyone in the family for a number of years. So going through this experience it tormented me, right?
I'm
And I
sure.
didn't want to be the one to tear the family apart,
Yeah.
even though the family should have been torn apart a long time ago, right?
Right. Right. True
But
story.
as a young person, you internalize and you think that it's going to be your fault. So inside of that experience, I still had these women who were loving me, who were nurturing me, who were pouring into me. And that's what kept me going and carried me through. And so when I began to make really stupid choices in relationships and
And
repeat,
may I ask, what are those stupid choices? Because
oh,
I think everyone's making stupid choices, but nobody wants to talk about it. And I'm sure that everybody is going to hear themselves in your stupid choices.
so I had my very first boyfriend at 16, 17, high
Okay.
school. Amazing guy, respectful, kind, sweet, nice, loving, caring, catering, all of that. And I loved it for a time. But then it felt really boring,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It was
Yes.
like,
Yes.
and I'm a New Yorker. So it was like, why don't you take the train to go there to pick me up that candy that I like and like bring it back to me? And he would. And I just began to kind of push the boundaries until I was just like bored with it,
Mm.
with the entire situation. And I wanted, the bad guy, the one who was, and for me, I am a Black girl from Queens who grew up in the crack era, 80s and 90s. And so the
Uh-huh.
bad boys were the ones who were in the street and getting into trouble and just doing all sorts of things that were not conducive to any type of healthy relationship, lifestyle, life.
Right. Yeah.
And I was attracted to that. And so I chose men who were living a little bit faster, who seemed more interesting, who like all of the girls liked, because that was an ego boost. Let me
Right.
see if I can get
Get
him to
him
want me, right?
over these girls. Yeah.
And all of it was ego based because I was operating from a place of trauma, from a place of
Yeah.
feeling like I wasn't worthy and like I didn't deserve. And so I made all of these choices as a way to feel wanted and loved when I was supposed to be giving that to myself.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it totally does.